morning, Trinity family. It is good to share some coffee and a bit of the word with you this morning. I'm Carolyn Kirsten, the director of the Children's Ministry, and we have a doozy of a passage here in Matthew 24. Maybe we don't even need our coffee because this description of the end times is like a triple espresso coming right at you. And there's some things that are hard to understand in that passage too. And in these brief moments, I won't have time and honestly don't even know the answers to some of these things. But what we can know is that there are some tough times coming. This past year has been tough, hasn't it? And we may think, wow, this Christ is coming soon. I've had people mention that. I'm sure they thought that during the Holocaust in those concentration camps or during the Rwandan genocide. There have been multiple times in our history when things like what are being described here were very real. And it is confusing then when Jesus says something like, this generation won't pass away before these things happen. Obviously he doesn't mean like the generation, like we think of a generation now. But here's what I want us to focus on. While there is a lot that's difficult to understand, we can know this. Things are going to get bad. Things are going to get worse. And we can pay attention and be watchful for that. I want to read starting with verses 32 to 35. It says, "Learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its branch becomes tender and sprouts leaves, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, recognize that he is near at the door. Truly, I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away." So Jesus tells us that we can be watchful and notice when these terrible things are happening, that means that Jesus is coming, that he is near. Now, what I think is interesting, that Jesus uses the image of a fig tree and sprouts coming. Really, it's like this time of year right now where we're looking for those signs of spring. My friend Kendra posted a picture of daffodils just starting to peek out of the ground in her yard. We're looking for those signs of spring right now. And I like that Jesus uses such a positive image for these terrible things. Like he could have totally said, notice the speck of mold on a loaf of bread before it makes the whole thing nasty and gross. Like that seems like that would fit better with those images of terrible destruction and hardship that are coming. Or, a small spark of flame that then can turn into a raging forest fire. Again, seems a little more of a destructive type image in keeping with what's coming, but I think it's interesting that instead Jesus uses such a positive image, one we can totally relate to, the anticipation, the expectation, the hopefulness of spring. And that's when I think it's important to remember that our time on this earth, well, it's really all our minds can comprehend right now. And there are things that we love so much and we can't imagine losing those things, not being here to experience those things. What we have awaiting for us in eternity, whether because Jesus returns or we pass away and join him, we can't even imagine how amazing and how much better that is. When you think of eternity, maybe you've seen this image. If there was a rope, here, I'll extend it, an imaginary rope across the screen, but it goes way, on and on and on. This life compared to eternity is like a little pinprick on that rope. Eternity is forever, no beginning, no end. We can't even imagine that, but this life is just like a tiny little blip. And so we can have hope, even when the anticipation of these distressful things happening, we can have hope in that eternity, that Jesus's words will never pass away, that our God is eternal, that we have an eternal hope in him. Friends, would you pray with me? God, life is hard, and we know that there is more trouble coming. And while that is discouraging and hard to hear, we know that you are a God of hope and that you give us hope, and that hope we have is in a loving God who loves us unconditionally. There's nothing we can do to make you love us more. There's nothing we can do to make you love us less. You simply love us. And as believers in you, we have that hope of eternity with you. Strengthen us for whatever hardship, whatever interactions that you have for us today, Lord, and remind us of that eternal hope that we have in you. Amen. Thanks, friends. It was great to be with you this morning. Have a great day.